Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mail Right Podcast. It's episode 311. We're here with Dustin, and Dustin is, as his website and his company says, he is a master of passive income. He is doing so, it looks like, mostly through real estate investing. John has queued up an amazing article that he has stumbled across in the Wall Street Journal that he wants to talk about today. I'm going to let Dustin go ahead and introduce himself. And John, when it comes to your turn, why don't you share with the audience what the article is? But Dustin, in your own words, share with our audience who you are and what it is you do and what you're excited to talk to them about today.
Yeah, so I am an investor. That's literally what I do. I buy properties and I buy and hold properties. I love holding on because I make passive income every single month. And so I appreciate you having me on the show. And I love being able to share with people that my life has literally been changed. Now I have 30 plus properties. I literally don't work. I get to get on podcasts and talk to great people like you guys and just share that real estate investing and passive income in rental property is phenomenal. And that's what I do. And so I have 30 plus properties now. Now I literally don't need to work. I was able to become successfully unemployed because I worked my way out of the job having my business. Now, I got to quickly tell you one quick story about how I got over that hurdle to become an investor. Now, if you're watching this, you can see in the background, I have my 4 kids. Well, we have 4 kids. Now, I was working a corporate job, actually working for the county government in California. And as I was working there, my wife had kid after kid. I was working at great seniority. Everything was going great there. Then after our 4th kid was born, like literally, I go on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom and gives time to, bond with the baby, help with the mom and all the other stuff. And then that's like a week or two. But then I get back to my regular job, my 9 to 5. I call it a JOB, a just over broke job. And with that just over broke job, we were living just over broke. And so I went back to work. And for a week, I'm working. And then on a Friday at about 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from my boss's secretary. She says, "Dustin, would you please come to the boss's office?" And I'm like, "Well, sure." And I hung up the phone. Then I paused for a second. I'm just a regular corporate job, a regular job, just sitting at a desk. I'm thinking, why would they be calling me at 4 or 3:30 on a Friday afternoon? Like, I haven't been back long enough to do anything good. And I sat there for a second. I said to myself, well, oh my goodness, there was some rumors. I remember remembering backwards about 2 or 3 months before I went on paternity leave, there was some rumors that the department was running out of money or was running low on funds. And they might need to do layoffs. And I shook it off and said, no way. I've been here 15 years. There's no way I could get laid off. I have so much seniority. So I get up and I start walking down the hallway to my boss's office. Now the hallway's not very long, but at every single step I take, it feels like the hallway gets longer and longer. And each step is like a lead brick of my feet moving. And it takes me a long time to get through the hallway, but eventually I do. I get to where my boss's office is. His door is closed. And his secretary who called me said, "Dustin, would you please have a seat?" And she's sheepishly grinning at me, trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything that's going on. I know very, very little about what's going on. In fact, nothing what's going on. And as I'm sitting there, I'm realizing that, my goodness, this could potentially be the time I get laid off. I've worked 15 years here. What is that? All my career here, it's going to be taken away. But then I started realizing, what does that make me as a father? Am I a failure as a father, as a husband, if I can't provide for my family? So I'll quickly round up the story to say, the door opens up to my boss's office. My hands already all clammy. My forehead's all sweaty. Out walks a lady, a coworker of mine, with a piece of paper in her hand. And she's noticeably distraught. She's noticeably upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you can absolutely tell her world has been rocked. And she passes by me. And my boss says, "Dustin, would you please come into the office?" And I walk into the office and he says, "We are the department is low on funds. We need to lay you off." And so remember, this is the county government. This is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government. So I take my layoff notice and I walk back to my desk and I sit there and I realize 2 things. And I'll finish out the story by sharing these 2 things that really helped me to get that transition to become an investor. That's why I started with I am an investor. And this is why I tell all my students and everybody. I realized 2 things. Number one, I need to get another job because I need to pay for the food for my family, the roof over our heads. So I was really blessed to find another job in the same department, which was really, really good. Just transferred, same county, but different department, the sheriff's department. So I was doing IT work there. So that was really good. I was really blessed to be able to provide for my family. The second thing that I want everybody to listen to this is realizing that your value that you have for yourself is worth so much more than anybody could ever pay you. So from that point forward, I said, now I'm going to call myself an investor. It may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my side job. My full-time job is an investor. And I'll tell you the reason why everybody else needs to know this. Your boss is only paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much that's going to take money out of their pocket that they don't want to give out. And so you can get paid so much more if you become an investor. And to finish out the story, if you remember that story of me walking down that hallway, my feet felt like lead bricks. Fast forward 3 or 4 more years later, I became an investor. I went to my new boss's office, said, here's a pink slip for you. Basically, I'm giving you 2 weeks and I'm quitting. In that last walk, about 1.5 mile walk to my car because I didn't want to pay for parking. I take that walk. I felt like I was walking on clouds because I would never need a job again because I invest in real estate. I don't work and I make money. And so that's why talking about the real estate market, all my students are buying properties all over the country. I'm buying properties all over the country. I'd love to be able to share as much as I can to help everybody realize that number one, you can invest, but number two, you have to also be smart and invest wisely.
Copy that. Oh, well, that was a hell of an introduction, Dustin. Okay, so
I'll give him full marks. That was the best one we've had for a long while. Can I jump in, Robert?
Yeah, John, I was just gonna hand it over to you, man.
All right, thanks. So, Dustin, one of the reasons why, because we've got our audience are real estate agents, investors, disparate, but everything around properties. But I thought I've watched a few of your videos and you seem very experienced and you seem an excellent communicator. The main reason I wanted you on the show is I've never known the property market be in such a confused, hyped, confused. It could go anywhere. The prices, some people say the prices are going to collapse nationwide when it comes to domestic property. Other people say that it's going to be regional. I feel there's going to be declines, but it's going to be regional, city by city, region by city. And then there's other people that say inflation is just going to take off and you need to buy as much property as you can. And I don't fully buy into that. I think it's too confusing where we are. So what do you, to start, and then we've got all the factors around iBuyer, what Zillow, Redfin, what the hedge funds are doing. Then you got Picasso around second homes. You've really got a lot of stuff and a lot of confusion. Where do you think the market's going in the next year? And secondly, how have you rationalized all these competing messages that seem to be conflicting with one another? Only a small question. Only a small question, though.
You've really gone back to your history of short, concise questions, Sean. I commend you.
I have, haven't I?
So there are so many variables right now in the real estate market. Now, I'm also one that I believe history is a good predictor of what is going to happen in the future. I remember back in 2006, people saying, you better buy now or you will never be able to afford a property. It's 2007, they said the same thing. Beginning of 2008, they literally said the exact same thing that they're saying right now. You better buy now or you will never be able to afford a house ever again because it's going to skyrocket. Now, my history back then, it crashed. Obviously, we know in 2008, end of 2008, 2009, literally crashed. Not saying that's what's going to happen now. I'm just trying to relate my thought process. So as I see history, I thought, oh my goodness, if there is a crash, what's going to happen to the values of the home? Well, that's really, really going to hurt, Pat. But what also is going to happen is rents are going to go up. Remember, I'm an investor. I invest in buy and hold properties. I hold on to properties for a very long time. I could literally give them to my kids. And so with that idea, I thought, if values go down, I'm only investing for appreciation. I'm going to get really just taken to the cleaners. In fact, so many investors or people who call themselves investors, they say, I would bankrupt. I just went upside down, blah, blah, blah. In 2009, they literally got destroyed. I didn't. I literally make money if the market goes up, down, or sideways because I make money in passive income. I make $250 or more from every single property. So that's the perspective that I have going into today. So what I'm seeing right now, historically, as we're seeing the run up of prices, like in Arizona, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, prices have gone up 20% in the last year. That is stupid. That is just crazy. I can't believe that. That's just nuts. But at the same time, we don't know exactly if it's going to crash or correct or anything. So here's what I do. This is what I'm thinking. So a couple things to answer your questions, as well as see what I'm doing right now. Number one, I'm buying good deals. I'm buying deals all over the country. My students are buying deals all over the country that are making us a minimum of $250 a month, but we're not chasing appreciation. We're not hoping the value goes up. We don't care about appreciation. In fact, people say, well, don't you like, of course, I like appreciation, but that's only when I sell the property. I'm literally going to give these properties to my kids. And the rents since the properties I bought in 2006 have literally doubled from when I first bought them. I still own them and they're going to keep going up, plus the mortgage is paid off. So thinking about where we are now, thinking about if the whole macro idea of all real estate changing, I personally believe, Jonathan, you said it really well. There was so many different variables going on. I mean, interest rates, you have inflation, you have just the 20% run up. Like there's going to be some sort of correction. In fact, we know that there is actually a correction every 7 to 8 years. There's always some sort of correction, but this has literally been 12 plus years since the last correction. So historically, I'm saying there probably will be a correction. I'm not saying that there's going to be a crash. If there is, though, I am ready to buy a lot of properties. Like I'm really, really ready to buy a lot of properties. But when I hear somebody that is living, I'll give you an example. I have a cousin who lives in Pocatello, Idaho. Pocatello, Idaho, which nobody is moving there. He told me, like, I don't know, 6 months ago, man, you better buy here if you want to move here because everybody's buying. You better buy right now or you're never going to get a property. And my cousin is definitely not in real estate. If somebody who's 100% not in real estate and a place like that, they're saying, you better buy now. I know for me, this is what I'm doing. I'm not buying for appreciation or I'm not buying a personal residence because if there's a correction, I'm not making passive income. There goes my appreciation, quote unquote, the value of my house. But here's what we're doing though. Thinking about like regional. Absolutely. There's going to be regional corrections. There's going to be crashes like say Phoenix, 20% rise up in the last year. That's nuts. If there is a correction, it's going to be 20%, if not more, in my opinion, down. Because just like in 2009, when it did happen back then, some of the things going to happen. But if you look at other areas of the country that are relatively well-priced homes, which meaning lower price home, $100,000, $120,000, maybe in some like $60,000, $70,000 homes, if there's a correction overall, regionally, they're not going to get cut in half. Like if you buy a house in San Francisco, you're paying $2 million for the house. If it crashes, it's going to go down to $1 million. So 50% of that value is going to be gone. But if you buy a house that's, let's say, $80,000, it might drop down to like 60, 70, maybe $50,000. Shoot, even if it drops in half as well to $40,000, half of that, you're still doing just fine because you have that passive income. So you're thinking of all, personally, I think there's going to be a correction sometime in the near future. So in the next year, yes, I think there will be a correction.
But do you think it's going to be a national correction? I think your position is a bit different because you seem to be indicating that you honestly feel, and you're just giving your judgment call, that there's going to be a national correction.
I absolutely think it'll be a national correction because what happens, okay, here's the mentality of, I've been talking to some realtors here in Phoenix where I live, and they're telling me, you better buy now. It's just like I already mentioned, you better buy now or you're never going to be able to buy again. And I said, well, what happens if there's something happens in the real estate market? Oh, well, hey, the people buying here, this is the realtors, they're a little nearsighted. The people buying here, they're selling their houses in California. They have cash. They're buying these houses for cash. So that's not going to be a mortgage they're going to have to worry about. And then I said, well, let's look at the people buying those houses in San Francisco. Do you think that they are getting a mortgage? Well, more than likely, they're not selling someplace in Idaho and being able to cash out in San Francisco. No, they're still selling their houses in San Francisco. So my big, broad projection for me and what I'm doing and what I'm telling my students is, number one, if there is some sort of correction, it's going to start where the values are just super, super inflated and people have mortgages. Now, it's not
Right.
the subprime mortgages, the variable and all that sort of stuff. It's not like that. They're going to see, oh my goodness, there's so much inflation, as well as people aren't spending money. The velocity of money that's going to slow down dramatically because there people are realizing, oh, what's going on with the economy? It's going to start in San Francisco, New York, or the coastlines where prices are so much more inflated than everywhere else. From there, it'll ripple down to everywhere else. I'll give you an example. If somebody got a regular mortgage,
go ahead. We're gonna have to go for our break in a couple of minutes.
Oh, got it.
But I want to put this question, and then Robert will go, and hopefully Robert's been very patient with me. But I just want to put this question, and then you can answer it after we come from the break, Dustin. I agree with you, but I think one of the major variables is, and I want you to think and then come back with your view on this, is that I feel that to some extent, not totally, but to some extent, the commercial real estate market is finished. And what I mean by that is that not some extent retail because of Amazon and home delivery, but the bedrock, which is offices. People are not going back to offices, Justin. They're not going to do it. They're not going to commute bloody 2 hours and 2 hours back. Anybody that's got any skill, got any value, they're going to say, sod that. I'm not going back to that after 2 years of working from home. They're just not going to do it. And I think a lot of these hedge funds and other institutions, which the bedrock of their investment is in commercial office space, let's be honest about it, the writing's on the wall. So where are they going to put all this money? Well, they're going to enter domestic property. They're going to buy people's homes. That's why they're interested in it. So I'll be interested to see what your reaction to what I've just said. Did you think I'm crazy? Back over to you, Robert.
Okay, we're going to go to our break, ladies and gentlemen. After we come back from the break, Dustin will queue up for John's question. So stay tuned. All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to episode number 311. We're talking to Dustin, and John, in his John fashion, has asked a multi-part question and is following up on this question with Dustin. So Dustin, we just queued up that question for you right before we went to the break, so I'm going to let you take it away.
I definitely agree with you that the commercial market has dramatically changed. I'm driving on the freeway in Phoenix, and I'm looking at office buildings that are literally vacant, big office buildings that are 5, 6, maybe even 10 stories as we're driving by. I'm like, you can see literally straight through all the windows and see that there's nobody in there. So absolutely, I could definitely see the commercial market doing exactly what you said, because COVID's really made sure that everybody realizes, hey, my boss doesn't need me to be at the office. And then the companies are realizing, oh my goodness, we could save a lot of money if we don't have them in there. So yes, I do understand that the commercial market's going to have a lot of turmoil. Now, having that transfer into single family homes, or let's say, 4 units and below, which is still a single family home, but commercial is 5 and above. I absolutely see that happening. Zillow is literally buying properties. You have BlackRock, which is out of China. They're buying properties. You're having big companies that are saying, hey, we can actually make money in here. They would rather have big commercial because they make a lot more money. They get long-term tenants and things like that. But they're going to go wherever the money is. So it definitely seems like that's actually going on right now.
But how will that affect the collapse that you're predicting?
So the commercial market would also, it's going to take a long time for them to make that shift. I wouldn't say a long time, maybe 2 or 3, 4 years to make that shift. Yeah. But in the long term, once the economy, so yes, buying houses is going to, there's more people buying, supply and demand. Values or prices go up, obviously. But we know that our interest rates have been so dramatically low here in America for so long that eventually they're going to start going back up, especially when all this inflation. With inflation comes higher interest rates. People only have, let's say, $1,800 a month they could spend either mortgage or rent. And so there it takes out lots of pool of buyers from there. Now, if you're having companies come in, of course, you're going to have more supply and demand. But once everybody realizes that the whole economy is dramatically changed, meaning inflation's crazy high, interest is crazy high, people are going to stop spending their money. They're going to start putting their money in a way, basically hold on their money. I need this money for food, let alone investing or let alone anything else. So what happens, the velocity of money transferring from one person to another and buying goods and commodities, that slows down, which makes the entire economy come to a halt. From my perspective, if a company goes from commercial to residential, yeah, of course, it's going to be grabbing up a lot of different properties. But at the same time, if jobs start to hit, they start to go down, just like in coronavirus, but also back in 2009, I remember lots and lots of layoffs. I remember lots of bad stuff if the economy does do what happened in the past. So it could have an effect. I'm not seeing it yet personally, but
before I throw it over to Robert, I think what you're saying, and I think because of commercial leases, they can be 10, 15 years long. There's no ability to sign out of them, get out of them with a buy clause. So I think what you're saying is, yes, it's there, but it's going to take longer than you think, Jonathan, for the effect. So what you're talking about is going to happen before that really kicks in. Would that be an honest summary?
I think so. I think there'll be more turmoil before that they actually fully jump in, even though Zillow has already jumped in, their other hedge funds have. But yeah, I think it would take a little time. But then I could be completely wrong and say, hey, they could literally be grabbing up all the single family. But here's the thing. There are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of single family homes out there. So as far as investors, we just need to be patient and find the right deals and wait for those.
Well, over to you, Robert.
Okay. So, Devin, John, thank you for this conversation so far. I'm going to go in a completely different direction, much more traditional real estate investing question for you here. So prior to the show starting, Devin, you revealed that prior to moving to Arizona, that for a while you had lived in California. You also indicated as we were queuing up for the show that many of the deals that you're seeking are coming out of the Midwest, if I understood you correctly, which it was a very small, very short comment that was unfollowed up on. So it's possible that I did not actually understand you correctly. But I have a couple questions because I'm in California. My bungalow that I live in is started off at $380,000 when I first moved into it. Right now it's valued at over $800,000. Neighborhood hasn't changed. This hasn't been an extraordinarily long period of time. The home has just tripled in value in the last 3 years, and I don't know that I could buy it even if I wanted to. So regardless of financing or all the clever things that people say that is possible, I just don't know that I could come up with any kind of down payment, and I have an exceptionally good credit. So I'm curious to know, you've got, you seem to be saying that a lot of investors are investing out of the state. So let's start there. Did I understand you correctly?
100%. In fact, I lived in Fresno, California when I started investing in 2006. Prices were crazy high then too. Not nearly where they are now. It's literally doubled from back then. But yeah, I invest in all over the country. And my students, I literally never fly anywhere. Out of the 30 plus properties I own, I don't fly anywhere anymore. I used to, but now if I'm starting a whole brand new area, I don't even bother about it. I don't even go to the states that I invest in.
Okay, so you are investing out of state. You would agree
Absolutely.
There are definitely better places to invest in, or maybe more doable places to invest in. That's what I'm getting. That's the subtext that I'm reading in that statement. Is that correct?
For my business model of having passive income, absolutely. Like, you can't invest in California. I say can't with a caveat. There probably are exceptions, but more than likely you can't rent the property that you're living in California for anywhere near to pay for the mortgage if you had to buy it brand new, let alone make money in passive income. But there are lots of places all over the country that you can do that.
Yeah, well, $1 million loan gets you like a mortgage of like $5,000 a month. Trying to rent this little bungalow out for anywhere in that neighborhood would be quite literally insane. When we moved in here, it was only a couple thousand per month. And I know friends of mine who are renting, who are now paying upwards of $2,800 for pretty regular, not very special 2-bedroom apartments And it's starting to get to the point that even people with good incomes are getting priced out of LA. I'm talking people who work in show business, not flip burgers or anything like that. These are people who make a lot of money who are getting priced right out of California. So I'm just curious to know, are you willing to tell our audience, can you give us a couple of examples of places that you might look at in order to get a better deal? I don't feel like most parts of California are it.
I would agree with you. That's why I moved out of California. It was just too expensive and just rough for me. So I moved over to Arizona. Now, to get to the location, I can definitely give you some good locations, especially where my students are buying. But before I do that, like it'd be like me giving you, if you've never driven before, you've never learned how to drive before, but I give you a keys to a Ferrari and I say, hey, go take a spin. It's not good. So I'm going to give you a big, broad overview of how to do this right if you're going to invest in other states and other areas before I tell you exactly where it's at. So here's a big, broad overview.
Hold on. Dustin, I'm really excited for that. I want to do that. But that sounds like a big answer. And we are maybe 1 to 2 minutes away from going.
We're about 3 to 4 minutes, Robert.
It'll take me really short. I'll walk you over that.
Okay.
So the broad overview is we want to build the business first before we invest anywhere. A lot of people will tell you, find a property, make sure it cash flows, run the numbers, then you find somebody to fix it up, then you find somebody to manage the property, then. We don't do that. We build the business first. And every property that we buy is a piece of inventory that we put into the business. Here's a city that has been going really, really well is Memphis, Tennessee. Really, really well for a lot of my students. Indianapolis, Indiana is another really, really good area of the country to invest. Now, those are two cities that are really, really good, but there's all over the Midwest is really terrific. But here's the biggest thing, like I said, if you go out and just buy a house because you run the numbers and it looks like it's going to make you passive income, in 3 years, you're going to say, hey, Dustin, take this property from me. I don't want it anymore. It's horrible because you didn't build the business first. So that's a big, broad overview. We build the business first. Contractors, realtors, plumbers, roofers, property managers, all that stuff before we buy any properties.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So what you're really saying is do the groundwork before you buy something, which makes sense. I'm not an actual expert in the real estate investment field, but I've got a lot of friends that invest in properties who've taken this passive income and this concept and started to become investors and landlords and things like that. And many of them have invested out of state. So I'm familiar with the strategy. And I'm also familiar with the calls that they make and the vendors that they hire and all those other things. I take it that part of what you do is you give a template as part of your courses. You have a template or either a way of hiring these resources, building this business. I'm assuming that is part of what you teach.
Literally every step of the way. If you don't have no business or real estate from the beginning to end, yes, 100. Here's the interesting thing. This isn't easy, but it's simple. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But it's simple. It's just literally a step-by-step process. Once you get all that done, you literally have a property making you money every single month.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, I hopefully, Justin, you're okay to stay on for another 15 minutes, which people can view the whole interview on the MailRight YouTube channel and on the MailRight website. You're okay with that, are you, Justin?
Sure.
Because I really want to get into this. It's just been I think, what do you reckon, Robert? It's been a bit different, but I think it's been a great conversation. What do you reckon, Robert?
It's definitely a different take on what we usually do here on the show, but it's interesting. And John, between the fact that you're angling a piece of your technology directly at the investment market, and the fact that we don't have that many conversations with investors, I think it's been a wildly valuable addition to.
Well, I also think
you
to our real. I'm sorry. But I also think to our real estate agent audience that what is, the micro environment is of enormous interest to them, Robert. And we are in, like what Dustin remarked, we're in very confusing waters at the present moment, but having some clear understanding, it's going to save hopefully some of our listeners a hell of a lot of money, Robert.
Copy that. All right. Well, listen, with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join us for the extra special bonus content. We're going to continue our conversation with Dustin, who has been kind enough to agree to continue to talk to John and I about the state of the real estate market, about what he does to invest in the market, what he's personally doing to secure his future, his children's future. He obviously is very passionate about it, believes in it strongly. I have no doubt that he's going to share a lot of other great tips with us when we switch directly over to the YouTube channel. Now you can find us at YouTube.com/mail-right. That's where you can find the extra bonus additional video content. I would love, Dustin, for you to share with our audience if people would like to get in touch with you or learn more about you, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, I super appreciate that. So I have my own podcast where it's literally just me teaching how to invest in real estate called Master Passive Income. And hey, guys, I have a real estate investing course I love just giving away for free. Would you guys mind if I share that with them?
Of course.
Go for it.
Awesome. So if you go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course, or you can even text the word rental, RENTAL to 33777. Rental to 33777. I'll give you my real estate investing course. It'll show you find an area of the country to invest, how to make sure you're building business first, making $250 a month, and scaling your business. I'll give that all to you. But yeah, that's how you can find me, Master Passive Income, on YouTube, podcasting, and everything.
Beautiful. All right, John. And how would you like people to get in hold of you, brother?
Well, if you're a real estate agent and you want to own your own website, and I suggest that if you're serious about being a successful real estate agent, you need your own website, go over, because MailRight gives a cast iron guarantee that if you want to move your website, we'll move it somewhere else free of charge. And if you're a property investor and you're looking for a specialized partner, so to help you with your digital marketing, go to MailRight.
Beautiful. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Robert Newman. I focus on something that's commonly referred to as search engine optimization. But that just means that I understand Google and all its different elements like YouTube and the image library. If you'd like to learn about these things without being sold a product, just go over to inboundrem.com because I give out most of my knowledge for free with no strings attached. So I'd love for everybody to learn more about SEO, and you can do so at my website in real estate specifically. All right. So with no further ado, we're going to go to the break, for our last and final break, and come back with the bonus material. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the MailRight Show. We are here for our bonus content. We're talking with Dustin, and John has raised some questions leading up to the break. So, John, why don't you go ahead and just in your last couple of questions here and finish out what was originally for you going to be an analysis of a Wall Street Journal article that I think is titled A Bargain with the Devil. Bill comes due after overextended Airbnb host. That was the original note sent over to us.
Well, I live in Northern Nevada, Dustin, and I moved here in 2006 with my former American wife. And I saw people buying properties left, right, and centre. And I saw a lot of those people get totally wiped out. I mean, I knew people that owned 7 to 10 houses. They bought them. The math never made any sense, even when they were buying them. And when people lost their jobs, they couldn't afford the rents that was needed. But people have a fear about buying out of state for understandable reasons. You know, how do they deal with that call about the toilet being blocked at 12 o'clock at night? You know, what I think you're suggesting is that with your courses and your knowledge, you can get over that worry about buying properties that might be a considerable distance from where you're based. Is that right?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, John. So I don't work 30 minutes a day on all the 30 plus properties I have. I don't work 30 minutes a week. I maybe work 30 minutes a month on all these properties because I built the business first. And now I have everybody else do the work. And I just grab my property management statements. I look at them, make sure everything looks good. then put it away and go back to play with my kids and doing, being on great shows like yours and have a lot of fun. Because I built the business first, making sure other people are doing the work for me. And I'll give you this. Some people might say, well, Dustin, that's going to cost a lot of money to have somebody manage the property. That's obviously something, because if they're going to take the calls, they're going to be charging you money. Well, here's the great thing about the way I run my business and the way I share everybody and my students how to do this. So I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my mortgage. I don't pay my property manager. I don't pay for repairs. I don't pay for any of that stuff. My tenants pay for every bit of that. Now, so happens that the money comes through me back out to be paid. It's totally fine because they accounted for it. I don't have to work a job to then pay for my property manager. So this is how you do it. You basically count up all your expenses. Super simple. Add up your expenses, your taxes, insurance, property manager fees, rehab, any vacancy factor, all that stuff. That's your expenses. And you account for every single expense, even the property manager. From there, you make sure, hey, property manager, how much can I rent this house for? Let's say you can rent it for $1,300. If your expenses are $1,000 and your income is $1,300, that difference is $300 in passive income with somebody else doing all the work. You just make that money in passive income. And what's really, I'll quickly round up to say, all of my students and we buy properties that make us a minimum. Remember, this is the minimum of $250 or more from every single property after all these expenses are paid. But $250 a month, that's $3,000 a year. If you have 10 properties, that's $2,500 a month. That's $30,000 a year. 20 properties is $5,000 a month without working, and $60,000 a year. And that's how we run this business, basically make it automatic and be able to do whatever.
I think what you're saying is don't be greedy. I think that's what you're, treat it like, look at the math, be realistic, buy for a realistic price, and don't be greedy on each property. Just see it as a stepping stone. I think that's true.
Yeah, you're 100% right. This is a get wealthy plan. Like I said, I literally can give these to my kids. So you're 100% right. And so I'm also giving jobs to lots and lots and lots of people who want to have these jobs. So yes, as best I can, I try not to be greedy.
Right. I sense that there is definitely regional differences. But in general, I think at the present moment, you would be semi-crazy to buy any properties on the West Coast of America, from Phoenix to California, Nevada to Oregon, up to Washington, where my feeling, the most exposure, the most risk is on the west side of the US. Would you agree with that broad statement?
I would agree, but there are some options or some ways to buy these properties to make money. Airbnb is not horrible and it's not fantastic. Like it's a strategy. It's for me, with all my students and myself, I recommend 80% of my portfolio would be in long-term, 20% would be in short-term, like Airbnb. Nevada, like especially Las Vegas, I have a student of mine who's literally making, I think like $4,000 a month in passive income from his one Airbnb property. It's a condo, like a one-bedroom condo, but right next to the strip. Anyways, so there are ways to do it. It's just trickier to kind of get this worked out.
Right. But to me, just to knock out some specific areas that I think at the present moment you would be crazy to buy.
I personally wouldn't. If you're trying to get at that, no, I would not invest in California, Nevada, all these. I would not.
Boys, Idaho's never been, but I understand the Boise market's already turned.
It's crazy there.
I wouldn't buy anything. Certain parts of Washington state, I wouldn't touch with a barge pole. A particular area in Texas, Austin, I think you would be crazy.
It's skyrocketing.
You would be crazy as an investor to buy a property in Austin. Would you agree with some of those cities and areas that I've just mentioned?
100% right. I completely agree with everything you just said.
Would you go as far as what I've said? You would have to be bonkers.
Well, if you're okay with losing money, then go right ahead. I just don't like losing money. I like making money.
Over to you, Robert.
So you were kind enough to share like two places that you've invested with, and you gave us one interesting case study, which you dropped as an aside, which is a single student of yours living in Vegas, has apparently acquired a condo and then is Airbnb-ing it out. Now, the original article that John asked us both to read, and I barely read, but I read bits and pieces. I glimpsed. It was talking a lot about how devastating the beginning and middle of COVID has been for Airbnb owners, and how many of them got forced into making long-term decisions with what was supposed to be a short-term investment. Now, if you had to say and just take a guess, like a gut feel guess, because I don't know that I agree with the extremeness of the view that John is propositioning in terms of a property slowdown, but I do think that the market has to correct. I don't think it has a choice. So I think it's going to correct. If you were going to say, like, in terms of picking an area, because trying to say that passive income is completely durable in a declining real estate market, I would say, well, maybe certain areas, but certainly not all of them. Like if you buy a house for $800,000 here in California and it drops down to $500,000, that's going to affect your ability to make passive income off it. So where would you be suggesting to anybody, your students, me, John, where would your guess be? Like, let's just say, okay, I believe a slowdown's coming. Where do you think the most durable places are? Because you're talking about deals. I get that deals look different and that some look better than others, but are there places that you'd be looking for these great deals in general?
So your scenario of buying an $800,000 house and it dropping to $500,000 affecting your passive income, it's not the drop that affects the passive income, it's the purchase. And so the saying goes, I know you guys know the saying, you make your money when you buy the property, you realize it when you sell it. So when you buy it at $800,000, you're already you already lost. There's no reason in doing that. So yes, so here's what's interesting. If there is a big change in the market, there's going to be more renters because there's more foreclosures. That's happened in 2007 and 2008. I had more people wanting to rent my property. But now looking at where we can invest outside of the coasts and everything like that, Idaho is not that great. But if you go to get a little more east, like if you get to Ohio, Dakotas aren't that great because there's not a lot of population living there. But once you get to like Ohio, then start working your way down south, where you get basically like the Midwest. Like I said, Tennessee. I have students investing in Georgia and in Louisiana, like Florida, the Carolinas. Like all these areas have really good lower priced homes that are going to be renting for a good amount. I'll give you an example. I have one student that's literally buying, like I've already said Memphis, but I'll give you Memphis again. One student, he started investing in me. He started with one-on-one coaching with me. And in 2019, December of 2019, so 3 months before COVID hit, he started investing. He bought his first property. And from that December of 2019, he literally has 22 units, I think 11 duplexes now. He's making over $6,000 a month in passive income, all in Memphis right now. So I have another student that's also investing in Florida. I have students that are investing in, like I said, Alabama as well. So they're all over the Midwest, are fantastic areas, lower priced homes, but higher priced rents.
Gotcha. Well, guys, we're actually a little bit, we're almost dead on the money, but we're kind of coming up to the end of our time. So once again, I'm going to ask Dustin, this time, because our audience is oftentimes separate. We've got some people that are stuck with us the entire podcast, but we're going to have a different audience tune into the YouTube video. So once again, if you would do us the favor of sharing how you'd like people to get a hold of you, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have masterpassiveincome.com is my website. My podcast is also Master Passive Income. You can find me on YouTube as well. I just give loads and loads of free content. But you guys also allowed me, I have my free real estate investing course that'll show you everything we just talked about and then some, how to actually do this. You go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. It's all one word, or you can text the word rental, RENTAL, to 33777, and I'll get it to you right away.
Copy that. Is it really free?
It absolutely 100% free. Literally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Even a checklist, step-by-steps, like literally gives you everything that you need.
Because if it's really free, I'll probably go download it and take a look.
Please go right ahead.
Okay. All right. So John?
Oh, it's just been a great conversation, Justin, and I hope that in the new year you'll come back on the Mailright Show for another discussion. You handled my crazy broad questions with the expert ability that I thought you would do.
Thank you, John. I'd love to come back on. You guys just let me know.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, if anybody would like to check me out, this time I'm actually going to plug my YouTube channel for my stuff, which is more SEO, general digital marketing related as it relates to the real estate vertical. I've been really active on YouTube lately. So you can go to YouTube/inbound REM and you'll find plenty of other content even beyond what I have on my website. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. We really appreciate it. If you do see us on YouTube, please do us a favor, help us destroy the YouTube algorithm. Give us a thumbs up. We all work really hard on the content. Dustin took his valuable free time instead of just sitting around playing with his kids and came on the show. John does all the organizing for the show, and I show up. So we'd love it if you gave us a comment or a like on YouTube, and thank you for coming.